Welcome to Weekly.tv. I'm your host, Eddie San Marco. This is my co-host, Jason San Marco.
Hello.
This is our first ever show, first ever podcast. We got some great show stories for you later on today. We're going to be talking about the Voting Rights Act. We're going to be talking about Ariel Castro. We're going to be talking about Anthony Weiner. That's going to be a fun story. And other serious stories as well. So Jason's going to go ahead and take it off initially, so go ahead and go.
Okay, our first story is about the sentencing for Ariel Castro. That was yesterday. For those of you who do not know and have not been listening to the news or watching the news, he was the man in Cleveland that kidnapped 3 women and kept them captive for over a decade. Some information that I found on Ariel Castro before we get into the actual sentencing was pretty interesting, how he lured these women, which was terrible in its sense, but interesting. So we have 3 women: Amanda Berry, Gina De Jesus, and Michelle Knight. Michelle Knight was offered a puppy to go with Ariel Castro.
I can't imagine what that conversation would be like. Hey, would you like to come in my van? I have a puppy in here.
I figured when you're young like that, your parents say don't take candy from.
Yeah, but these women, I think, were at least in their late teens, weren't they?
I believe so, yes. Which makes it strange.
It is very strange.
Amanda Berry was in a custody battle with the state for her daughter, and the day that she was taken, she was supposed to go to court, and she never made it. But Ariel Castro told her that he was a representative of the state and was able to allow her to see her daughter, which is why she got in the van. And and Gina De Jesus was asked to help him move some stereo equipment, which I thought was pretty strange. So what did he do? He kidnapped them. He chained them up in his home for 10 years, for 11 years actually. He raped them and beat them. This is a terrible story.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah. Doing all that, he got life with no parole, plus 1,000 years, $100,000 fine, and he had to forfeit his property, which the judge said that was one of the more devastating. What's the word here? The more devastating
ruling.
There you go.
I think the more devastating ruling is 1,000 years.
I don't think that really makes a difference.
Well, he's not going to need his house anymore.
Well, I understand that.
So for him, I think that the most devastating ruling is 1,000 years in prison.
But if you think about it, he's 53.
Let me ask you a question. I don't really understand why these people say 1,000 years. Obviously, he's not going to live 1,000 years. That's life. They should just say life.
To my understanding, life is 32 years in prison.
Oh, that sucks.
Right. So when you have multiple counts of life, you're going to get, let's say you have 4 counts of life, you have 100 and...
I don't think they say 4 counts of life. I think they say, hey, this would equal up to 150 years in prison. This offense would reach up to 250 years in prison, and just kind of.
Or maybe they say there's 5 counts of murder equaling up to X amount of years, something like that.
Devastating.
Yes, he was charged and convicted of 937 felony charges or felony counts, including rape, assault, kidnapping, and aggravated murder.
See, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
I kind of have an issue with the aggravated murder.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to the whole pro-life, pro-choice issue.
Okay.
So I'm pro-choice.
Okay, so before you continue,
okay, go ahead.
So the audience knows what you're referring to is the aggravated murder for the
unborn fetus.
The unborn fetus, for which Michelle Knight was pregnant twice.
Correct.
And the first
So he did this twice then?
Well, he did this twice, but apparently she protected herself better the second time and actually gave birth.
Oh, okay.
While she was captive.
Gotcha.
So the first time he punched her in the stomach. He made her do rigorous exercise.
I think he starved her as well.
So that's where the aggravated murder comes in. So go ahead and take it away.
So I'm pro-choice, just so you guys know.
As am I.
I think that it makes a very bad precedent for people who are proponents of pro-choice, because when you convict somebody of murder on a fetus,
right,
especially a fetus that is not maybe to a second term,
okay,
that gives fuel to people who are opposed of, or that are pro-life, and they want to put regulations on abortion because they say that you're killing a fetus, you're killing a human being.
Right.
So what this ruling does is that it tells everybody who wants to talk about basically putting restrictions on women to get an abortion.
Well, I wouldn't call those people pro-life then, just anti-choice.
Anti-abortion is what I would call them.
Well, anti-choice, because you could be against abortion morally, but accept that there's going to be circumstances that allow abortions to take place, such as miscarriages or rapes or incest, right?
Right.
So what you have to be is, if you're for those particular instances, you're not pro-life at all. You're pro-choice because you're saying there are certain restrictions. If you just don't want a kid, they don't want you to have an abortion. And we've gone completely on a different tangent, so
True.
We'll come back to our story in just a second here. But when somebody says no abortion, no matter what they really are is anti-choice. They're saying, I'm not giving them the option.
But they give the reason of, this is a life.
Right.
This is a living, breathing human.
Okay.
And what you're doing is killing this living, breathing human.
Right.
And then what the debate is it actually a human life? And what this ruling does is it says, yes, it is a human life, because somebody got convicted for murder,
right,
for killing this human life.
Well, we don't actually know how far she was. So she could have been 30 weeks.
I mean, it's possible.
I don't think that information was released.
But the people who are trying to say I'm pro-life and I want to put restrictions on abortion, they're not gonna care how many weeks she was.
Right. Well, they're
just gonna say this person was convicted of murder.
Yeah.
For murdering a fetus because that person is a human, and that's how it's gonna go.
That's definitely an interesting point. Okay, so back to Ariel Castro.
Sorry, I took us way off.
That's okay. Some quotes here. He was allowed to talk, which some people say they don't care. Let him talk. It doesn't make a difference. I don't think that way. I don't think he should have been allowed to say anything in court. For what he did to those women, he doesn't get the privilege of being able to speak at all.
I don't agree. It doesn't bother me that he made a statement.
It bothers me that
they actually allow a lot of people who are about to be taken away to make a last statement.
Okay, so if he were to make a statement, then maybe I'll retract. But what he said was, and I quote, "I'm not a monster. I am a normal person. I'm just sick."
I mean, he's clearly schizophrenic. Not schizophrenic. I'm sorry. He's a psychopath.
Yes, you meant sociopath.
Sociopath.
Yeah.
Thank you. And people who are a sociopath, they don't understand
morality.
They don't understand morality, so they think what they're doing is fine, or that they say I'm sick, so then I have to go to jail because I killed somebody. But they don't actually take responsibility, saying I did this act I did this immoral act. But they have absolutely no empathy for it, so they can't understand why they're going to jail for
this is a rationalization, which I think is pretty sick. So he says, another quote here, I have an addiction just like an alcoholic has an addiction, which he probably has some mental issues.
That is not addiction.
It's not an addiction. That's a complete excuse. He more than likely has some mental issues, because somebody with a sane mind does not do this to people in any fashion.
I agree.
So he did not get the death penalty.
Okay.
He got the life with no parole in 1,000 years.
Right.
Which I think 1,000 years it doesn't make a difference at all. He's going to be dead.
I think he's in his 40s, 50s.
He's 53.
Okay, I think after anything over 40 years, he's got to be gone.
Right. I think he should have gotten the death penalty.
I don't agree.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you as to why in just a second.
Sure.
I have here the definition of cruel and unusual punishment, and this is the foundation of how these states are going to convict people to the death penalty. And I'll read it to you here. It says, punishment prohibited by the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution includes torture or degradation or punishment too severe for the crime committed. Meaning, the most horrific thing you can possibly think of, okay, let's give them the death penalty. That's essentially what they're saying.
People get the death penalty for much, much less than cruel and unusual punishment.
I agree with that. So you go ahead and say what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say, and then I will come back to you.
So here's the thing. I do not like the death penalty. I don't believe in the death penalty. I believe in it in its ideology. I don't believe in it in practice.
Okay.
I think our track record of killing innocent people, is way too high.
I agree.
And I don't think we're good at it. I think if we were a lot better, then it would be fine.
Right.
I'm very much someone who would say, if he should be killed.
Mm-hmm.
He should be killed. Eye for an eye. He should be killed.
Well, eye for an eye, no, maybe not, but he should be.
Well, that old saying, eye for an eye.
Right.
So
no, I get what you're saying.
Yes, he should be killed for what he did, but I don't think that the whole death penalty practice is something that we should be dabbling into because we are horrible at it.
Okay, so let me make a comment there. I agree with 90% of what you just said.
Okay.
Okay, so I agree that the system in place doesn't work because we have overzealous judges and an overzealous legal system that is quick to convict for a death penalty.
Right.
To make an example of someone.
Well, there are also prosecutors that just want to make sure that their numbers are up, and so they push these people through the system as quickly as they possibly can.
Right.
And there have been cases where the prosecution they plant evidence that's not actually there, or they brush aside evidence that would show that the defendant was innocent.
Okay. Well, we don't have any cases to cover.
No,
for
not
that,
maybe we can get Thomas.
But we know that does happen.
Yeah. By the way, I never even mentioned our awesome producer Thomas in the intro. I apologize for that. He's over there. He's going to be chiming in sometimes. He's actually going to be doing pretty soon a sports segment on weekly.tv. Maybe
it's
some
because he knows more about sports than we do.
Right, and probably a fantasy football section.
That would be pretty cool.
We all do fantasy football, so I think I want to tag along in for that. Okay.
Yeah, and then we can get some secret insights that Mr. Thomas does not want us to know.
Correct.
But has to say.
All right, let's get back to it.
Okay, back to the story. So, I agree with you that in practice it doesn't work.
Right.
However, in this particular case, where there is so much overwhelming evidence, where when the police took him in to question him, he spilled his beans. Without being pressured, just talked forever.
Sure.
Everything that he did in detail for this instance and for this type of cruelty that he's caused, he should have gotten the death penalty.
Here's why I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I don't think we should be doing this to anybody.
Okay.
So we can't bring this guy in and say, okay, well, for everybody else, we're not going to do the death penalty too, but for him, this is no question.
Well, we're
going to go ahead and do it.
We should have it in place for instances. Sorry, my cord's getting caught. For instances that are similar to this case, where there's so much overwhelming evidence, and it's not just an eye testimony or a witness that comes up and says, "I saw this person kill this other person." Okay, death penalty. There shouldn't get a death penalty off of another person's eyewitness. Okay, that's not enough evidence for something like this overwhelming. Then I think that it would be relevant to this particular case because he was convicted, because he got such a harsh sentence. Which I don't think I think the plus 1,000 years was sort of just a. We all know you're a bad guy, and I just want to stick it to you a little bit more. So it's sort of like just a jab. It's not going to do anything.
Sure.
Right.
I just don't think that we should be in the killing business.
Okay.
Until we get the process down so accurately that we are 99.999% correct.
Okay.
On all of our convictions. As soon as we are at that point, then we're having a discussion. Then we're having a debate about the death penalty, and it's not just because. And it's not just based upon, well, this guy, we know this guy did it, but we don't. But there's evidence to maybe say that this other guy is innocent.
Yeah.
As soon as we know 100% certainty that we can be accurate 100% of the time, or at least 99% of the time, then we're having a discussion.
Okay.
All right.